Good afternoon. I have to thank the organizer for allowing to show some of the questions addressed in the previous talk could be worked out. I don't claim that I have solution for all the questions asked by Yung Tao, but I think a way of initiating a new way could be to use only laser. The laser for producing the target and the same laser for producing the proton beams. So, and I am in the same velocity range than it was.
Choose to use this or talk directly.
Okay. And j'avance avec ça. Okay. So, the goal is to check something incredibly simple, simply this Bethe formula, except that we are in a low velocity range, so most of the stopping will be due to the target proton, if we have a hydrogen target, fully ionized, and then we want to check if it works or not. And this could be useful for a database, okay, for checking the charge of the proton, who can recombine in the end of range. And there is also, maybe you know, a research of interest in fast ignition, and there is a kind of consortium, at least in Europe, about fast ignition initiated by proton beams. So this could be also useful for them. On top of that, well, one ambition in our university, including École Polytechnique, is to test proton stopping in an arbitrary magnetized plasma. This is a very, very difficult and challenging topic. I will come at the end of my talk on that. So you see, some of the people involved, the most important ones are not on the forefront.
Claude, use the microphone.
I use the microphone. Okay, this picture has been taken in Bob Cobb laboratory 2 years ago on the Titan laser facility, and we enjoy very much not only his hospitality, but the fantastic technical efficiency of the supporting laser crew that we had already much better than we could have found in Europe. So thank you very much, Bob, for that. And we try to do something in 4 weeks in Livermore. Before that, we tried on the ELFI project at École Polytechnique, and we had a plan like this. You have one laser, you take 2 arms of it, a long pulse for hitting the target, which will be produced by a nozzle. It will be a gas. The gas could be hydrogen, helium, argon, xenon, whatever you want. So you are highly flexible as far as the target is concerned, and the proton beams is produced by a short pulse, by a TNSA process, and the long pulse is divided in 2 halves, one for the production of the target plasma, and the other for Thomson scattering. That means for checking the property of the proton beams out of the target. The key concept, the key technological, metrological concept is a velocity selector. You know what? You play that game. See, maybe I need something like this. No. You have a delta E over E. That means the energy of the proton of the produced proton by a TNSA process has a wide range. So you have to reduce it, and for that you need to be the selector with an alternating 1 Tesla magnetic field. That this is shown you twice, on the upper part and on the lower part. And this has been carefully designed to us by Maxence Gauthier in his thesis at École Polytechnique. So you use it, and when you put it in the chamber, you have enough room for allowing for the dimension of this device, which is a key concept when you play that game. It's not like with an accelerator where you have the energy you want. Here you have a wide spectrum, and you have to select the energy range you are interested in, and this is the way to do it, as far as we have done. We did.
The laser pointer
He's interfering.
Yeah.
Okay. Ok, donc maintenant on fait ça. Voilà. So, the kind of plasma we have is more or less here in temperature and density, so it's much higher compared to what Yung Tao had shown to us. You can have easily keV temperature, we can have density up to 10 to the 20, and we have the step, here is shown in two steps. The first, you produce with the short beams, here the ion beam is the alpha particle, and after that, you have the long pulse for producing the beam.
Does it work, the laser?
It doesn't seem to be that fast.
They're ready.
Very good. Okay. Okay, so you see, first we have the cold stopping process, we have the TNSA process here, and out of this gold foil, we have the velocity selector, and we have the quasi-monochromatic proton beam, and in a cold gas. The cold gas target, so now we have to check if we retrieve stream data, for instance. So, indeed we do. This is not a fantastic achievement, but it's just for calibrating further measurement in hot plasmas. So, here what we see, that, as you expect, the center of the target is more dense than the edge. We have a kind of gradient, not strongly modulated, but nevertheless we have one. And we have less stopping at the edge and more stopping at the center of the target. And the data we have are compatible with the stream calculation for hydrogen target, a helium target, and a nitrogen target. It could be the same for argon and so on. So, and at the end of our beamline, we have a spectrometer. We have the spectrometer, which is shown on the left part of my presentation. So you see that the laser can move, the plasma can move, so we have to be sure that the spectrometer is really monitoring the plasma after being hit by the proton beam. Okay. So, I go a bit, okay. So now I have to go to a hot target, and then I see more or less the opposite. What I have a less dense core, and nevertheless I have less stopping in the center than I have at the edge, for a good reason, that you know that the stopping in plasma is strongly decreasing with the temperature. And because I can go to very high temperature, this effect is strongly marked, and I have the opposite of the present presentation. I have less stopping at the center and more stopping at the edge. So this signature that you have produced a plasma. This is just a qualitative signature of the interaction. So now, if I conduct 2D flash simulation for mimicking the heating.
Claude, use the microphone.
Okay, I have flash simulation to mimic what the long pulse is doing. I see that the integrated line density, that the product of the density by the linear projection of the proton along the side in the plasma is even 5 times more dense than in cold gas. So we even less stopping that we have anticipated qualitatively from the previous picture. So we are really in a different situation from the cold gas. And here you see the practical arrangement that we had in Livermore. C'est ça, c'est ça. Voilà. It's here. So you see, we produce the proton with selector. That means what I want to show here that we have 45 centimeters. All that can stand in a big chamber, a reaction chamber, including the velocity selector. And when you practice it, I really was involved as a theorist. I was a kind of embed theorist. And you see, it's not like working on an accelerator. It's like playing Lego. You have small parts and you have a lot of them. You have to arrange them, and the dismounting part takes you half a day. So it's really a different practical experimental culture that you experience on ion beam, on the beam labs. So I have the same kind of diagnostic at the end with a selector, and I have to be sure that the plasma has not moved hydrodynamically too far. Okay, so now I switch to argon. It's very flexible. I can go to argon target and I can compare all stopping. I am always below 1 MeV. I have a few hundred keV, and I am losing also a few hundred keV. I lose very little, a little more about 130 keV, for instance. I have various shots with various entrance energy in cold argon. So if I get to cold gas, I have different profile, of course. It's just qualitative because we have not enough time, and we are not really reliable on the diagnostics. It's just a progress report I show to you. My main objective is to convince you that we have achieved convergence in space and in time between the beam and the target. So now we can proceed with the diagnostics. But the real result, we don't have them around. So I have not yet all the answer to the question asked by the former by Hugh Tao. Okay, so now if I go, I repeat simulation in nitrogen, I have similar picture, but I am at higher temperature. You see that with laser you can go to much higher temperature than with an accelerator. And you, for example, in nitrogen, you are fully ionized. If you have 1 keV, and with 10 joule, you have already 500 keV temperature. So you can play a lot with the temperature effect in your plasma, provided you check that you are not too inhomogeneous. So for that you need good code, and Stefano Azzeni is helping a lot. He's working in Roma, La Sapienza. He's helping a lot for us for that.
Oh, please hold the microphone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have some data which are just qualitative and not really analyzed in terms of energy loss, just to show that we can do it. And as Abel Blazevich from the GSI has said, after having heard your presentation, we can redo your experiment. That's a compliment, I think, that we have at least achieved the basis of the metrology. So you see that you have different profile in argon when the plasma is there. So the flash simulation can be redone in argon, and we can check the remaining bound state of argon. You have 1 or 2 electrons left. You don't know if you are really hydrogen-like or helium-like, but you can check that quite accurately with your code. And for that, you can use also a variable space grating. That means the grating which is flat, that explains that it is also not regularly spaced like the curved one. That means VLG X-ray spectrometer. And you see that in argon, if your density is above 10 to the 18, you don't have line if your temperature is above 300 eV. So that's the kind of indirect check of the charge state of your target plasma. Okay. So now I switch to the more the theoretical part of the theory we could underlie such effort. I have just shown you metrology, that with laser, for the first time, it's possible to synchronize the production of the plasma with the production of the proton beams. But the physics which underlies that go out of code, and for instance, David Casas, in his thesis 2 years ago in Ciudad Real, has shown that, for instance, electron stopping is as important for bound electron and target electron in the density and temperature regime we are in, for all these rare gas targets, if they are only once ionized. And you see that, at least qualitatively, we have shown that we have a plasma, because we have, in the long pulse heating, we are above the stream data for cold gas. But what we want really to do, which is very difficult, this is also a challenge for Chinese competitor, is to do the same thing with an applied magnetic field. Because it's true that we can do the same thing that we do routinely with accelerator, with laser, but to put a magnetic field around, that's really a challenge. Because to see something, this magnetic field should be quite large. You need. To see something, you need at least 20, 25 Tesla, which is, and experimentally, this requires a lot of coil, and maybe with laser you can do it dynamically, like Fujioka has proposed 2 years ago at ILE in Japan. That means you have two coils. One coil is irradiated by the laser arms, so it's producing an azimuthing magnetic field, which influence another plasma, which is under control of another laser arm. And this experiment has been redone at Celia 2 years ago, but we are more or less sure that we are in the kilotesla range of magnetic field, and this kilotesla magnetic field, dynamically produced, could be more or less considered as constant on a 1 nanosecond time scale. So you see that to achieve a very interesting project of proton stopping hydrogen plasma arbitrarily magnetized suppose a lot of technological investment, but it doesn't seem to be unfeasible. So we have a lot of unpublished calculation. Of course, calculations are easier to perform, and we need all the time, if you want to match magnetic field with density and temperature, you can't escape the fact that you need at least 30 Tesla to see something sensible on the energy loss. And that, and what it is important, first, from the basic science point of view, up to now, we have a lot of calculation on proton, electron stopping, whatever stopping in arbitrary magnetized plasma. There is zero reliable experiment. No one exists. So we need that. Of course, the MFE people will introduce light element for additionality at the beginning for igniting the tokamak, are playing with that, but their data are quite complex to analyze, and it's just engineering, you know. They use Fokker-Planck and so on. But it's not something which is accurate within a percent, you know. They don't need that. Okay? So really, there is really a challenge for understanding the basic stopping of proton in a hydrogen plasma, the simplest thing you may imagine, well, with an arbitrary magnetic field, everything supposed to be homogeneous and without any additional turbulent effect. This is one of the goals of this, I would say, not experimental but metrological presentation. Thank you for attention.
Thank you very much. Are there questions?
So, very nice talk, and I want to ask how the magnetic field should be, it should be along the end pass, or
in any direction.
In different direction.
It can be, of course, along the beam, it can be transverse, it can be oblique, it can do whatever you want.
Yeah, and if you do not allow the end beam, then the beam will be circling surround this field.
Along beam frontal,
yeah.
The projectile also will be circling.
Yeah.
It depends on the intensity of the magnetic field.
Yes, it's
There's a lot of
dependent.
calculation on that. Everything is theoretically is prepared, but the basic experimental arrangement has to be designed. It has to be convincing from a basic science point of view.
Okay. So anyway, I think the beam will have some divergency. Then.
Okay, the beam will be circling. That's obvious. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
It's like in your experiment, we didn't speak about that, but you have a lot of, you have to pay attention to straggling and also to multiple scattering, because the proton is a light ion after all. Okay, so there are a lot of effect to control if you want to be very accurate.
Thank you very much, Professor Deutsch, for interesting talk. And when we discuss or talk about stopping pool of electrons, we suppose free electrons. But you mentioned about stopping pool of bound electrons. What does it mean? Stopping pool of bound electrons.
Okay, now
Yeah.
okay. Here
And
we have,
how did you estimate this velocity?
Here we have, you have stopping by bound and free. This is the heavy line is for free electrons, and all the other contributions are by bound electrons corresponding to this species once ionized. So they are the same, quantitatively, they play the same role. Okay. you have both. They are both equivalent. Because you are in a low velocity, not always, but especially in the low velocity range, you see that the even bond electron are as important as that. For this temperature, of course, if you change the temperature, you will see other things.
How do you determine the charge state of alpha in your experiment?
Okay. I spoke only of proton beams, also a bit of alpha. So we didn't look at the detail of the charge state of the alpha, like Jungto has done in his experiment, or the charge state of the in our target. We can use basic theory for doing that. Of course, I think the best way to do it. My answer would be to use plasma spectroscopy to look at lines. Okay, so you see in the line of are there or not, you know. For instance, for argon, if your density is high enough and your temperature is high enough, you don't no line, so you have full ionization. Okay. Well, in the other case, you have to look at the line, and then you have to perform plasma spectroscopy, which is a highly professional activity, and to look at a line broadening and so on. This is one way. So you can have for the question about the remaining bound electrons. There is okay. I think the best way in line broadening you can use also X-ray scattering, or there is many ways of playing with free X-ray or any other of radiation on the bound electrons. Okay. That's a huge topic, but there are plenty of opportunity. I think I insisted on the metrology part of the work. That means that the experiment is possible. Now, out of it, we can do a lot of things. Okay? And we have not enough time to do the things. And it turns out that the diagnostic part takes months, if not years. It was like that with the accelerator produced ion beams. What Jungto has shown with the hydrogen target split in two parts. Actually, this target could be called Kazakh. Why? Because this target has a history which is at least 30 years long. It goes back to a very long time at the end of the former century, when we started to do experiments at Orsay, and then we moved to JSI. We first start at CEA, Bruyères-le-Châtel, then at Nuclear Physics Institute at Orsay, and we want to understand proton stopping in hydrogen plasma. The simplest things, you compute and then stopping, we have in the target that Jungto has shown, the increase is of 250% compared to equivalent cold gas. But to do the experiment was a nightmare. It took us 30 years. Why? Because we couldn't find at the beginning any accelerator in the whole of Western Europe. Neither in France, nor in Great Britain, not in Germany, not in Sweden, not in Italy. And then we had to go to ITEP. I flew to ITEP in April 90. And then we had the Van de Graaff accelerator. Unfortunately, it was Gorbachev time. Maybe a lot of people are too young to know who Gorbachev was. It was the end of the Soviet Union. Okay, and the last lens blew up. It was impossible to repair it on spot. There was a lot of social chaos and all that. And we had to wait 5 or 6 more years before this target. Initially, I had meant to come from the CNRS Grévy laboratory in Orléans. And that target was used for us, then was used at JSI. Then that target could be implemented at ITEP. Then that target was moved 3 hours flight to Almaty. Almaty was not yet Almaty, it was Almata. And then 40 clever nuclear physicists were able to end the proton beam, because the proton is so light that it goes everywhere, it's dazzling like mad, and so they cut it in 2 parts to opposite polarity to stabilize the proton and to avoid turbulence. Okay? And then it was the first, they were able to produce 2 papers in PhysRev-E in 96 or 98, and to show, just to check better formula for proton stop in hydrogen. You know that how long it took with an accelerator. So it's normal that with laser it took a few more time, with only 4 weeks. Okay. That's my conclusion, that we have to be quite reliable on the diagnostics.
Any more questions?
Yeah?
Last question is just, you have said that theoretically you are ready for these experiments?
Yeah.
And my question is, when it's about stopping power, also with additional magnetic field,
Yes.
as far as I know, there don't exist even simple approximation which correctly takes into
A lot
account.
of calculation, and we have calculations, we have not published all of them, that's true. Because Julien Fuchs put a lot of pressure on it, because he thought that the experiment was immediately possible, but it's not the case. They produced the calculation without experimental support. There was not, a lot of people have addressed this issue. Especially, it started, apparently you have a Soviet culture in plasma physics, which is the best. Okay, so people like Achiezer and all that, they were 50 years, 40 years ago.
All right, I encourage to follow up that discussion at the next coffee.
But we are really adapted to that. We can compute the stopping for any orientation of the magnetic field with respect to the proton beam. That's not an issue.
Let's thank Claude again and all